Almost Sideways, a place for movie conversation. My name is Adam, and I'm currently reviewing the 2001 nominated films for Best Animated Feature, which also happens to be the very first year they ever did Best Animated Feature. Earlier this week, I just reviewed Shrek, so make sure you check the box right above my head. Or if you're listening on an audio podcast and you would like to see the video, you probably just listen to the audio, but make sure you check the show notes for the video if you would like to check that out too. But anyway, today's review is going to be Monsters, Inc. From 2001, directed by Pete Docter, who just has won several Oscars. And this is kind of an interesting film after watching it. I haven't watched Monsters, Inc. for quite some time, and I'm kind of excited to talk about it because I think some of my opinion might have changed ever so slightly. And before I took this challenge, originally, I would have said it's clearly they got it wrong. Shrek did win the very first Best Animated Feature, but Monsters, Inc. should have won, right? After rewatching, I really love Monsters, Inc., and I think it's top tier Pixar, but I think maybe they got it right just because of the long-lasting legacy of it. But maybe you don't have as many bad sequels as Shrek does with Monsters, Inc. Anyway, with that said, before I share my thoughts and takes on Monsters, Inc., let me know what you guys think about Monsters, Inc. in the show notes. And make sure you do leave me a counter how many times I say Monsters, Inc. in this review. So, Monsters, Inc. is a film that took place in 2001, and it tells the story of two good buddies, Mike and Sully, voiced by John Goodman, who plays Sully, and Billy Crystal plays Mike Wazowski. And they are a team, and they work for a company called Monsters Incorporated, where they scare because they care. And Sully is the big scarer who goes into little kids' rooms in this weird building. They basically have these doors come down, these kids' doors come down into their office and get activated, and the monster goes through, scares the kid, and their scares bring energy into this monster world. One time, when a door mysteriously is left down below, Sully investigates it and accidentally brings in a little girl named Boo in the monstropolis that is the Monsters, Inc. world. Okay, so that's a little rundown of Monsters, Inc. And I hadn't watched this one for quite a long time. I think I've seen Monsters University a couple times more recently than I have seen this first film. And I gotta say, this movie is still just as charming. I think something has to do with Pete Docter. Pete Docter is kind of a genius, and we've talked about this here on our podcast quite a bit. He just won an Oscar for Soul. He's done Inside Out. He also won that. That's what Inside Out personally is my favorite Pixar movie, along with Coco. And Pete Docter also did Up. So 4 movies that Pete Docter has directed in the Pixar family these movies pack the most emotional punch of any Pixar movie, pretty much. I think you could throw Toy Story in there and also Coco for emotional punch moments. Wall-E probably too. But anyway, Pete Docter does have a great track record with Pixar, and this is his very first film that he was able to direct here. And the best things about this movie are Billy Crystal and John Goodman. Right out of the gate, get the voice talent running on all cylinders. Great comedic duo that I personally would never have guessed would have worked so good. Probably wouldn't have worked as great in live action, but because they're animation, I think the characters are picked perfectly. I think John Goodman is the perfect Sully, and as likewise for Billy Crystal as Mike Wazowski. There's something about this combo. They're like Timon and Pumbaa, the Pixar world. Timon and Pumbaa was actually a side character, but anyway, it's like Buzz. They had Buzz and Woody a couple years ago, and having Mike and Sully, they're really good at having doubles, combos, best friends, if you will, or work off each other. Pixar has always done a great job with best animation in this voice talent in here. Another character I really love is Randall Boggs, played by Steve Buscemi. I love Steve Buscemi, anything he does, and he is perfectly realized in Monsters, Inc. I don't really care what they did for him in Monsters University because they kind of keep him, kind of change him up a little bit. It feels like they kind of retcon some stuff with his character from Monsters, Inc. I get it. What they were trying to do is try to make him kind of a friend of them, kind of maybe start that rivalry with Sully and Mike. But I don't really care about Monsters University too much. I guess that's kind of lower tier Pixar. Monsters Inc. is upper tier. So anyway, let's talk about the upper tier stuff. This world of Monstropolis is beautiful and amazing. I kind of want to explore more of it, and I kind of was expecting Monsters University to be a little bit maybe Monsters Inc. 2 to see what happened with next, and get more into that world, but didn't realize what I was asking for when I wanted a sequel to Monsters Inc. But the world of Monsters Inc. is fully realized, and it's breathtaking. I want to see more of it because really you only get to see like what's inside the factory, this little restaurant the googly couple go to, and some other little places here and there, their apartment and stuff, and wanted to see kind of more. Some of the humor here really works still after 20 years later, and absolutely is some of my favorite little kind of gags and little characters and little jokes from any Pixar movie recently that I have seen. And after so many years, I think it's a very charming film that definitely packs an emotional punch near the end. And that emotional punch definitely comes from the love relationship that you kind of feel, the pulls at the heartstring with Boo. And Boo is one of the cutest little kids. And I kind of was telling my daughter as we were watching it, because she got sucked into this world again, too. It's like, this kind of reminded me of you. You were always kind of curious, and you were, if say for instance that this movie was an actual real thing where these monsters would come in and kind of scare their kids, I think my daughter would be brave enough to go into there and kind of become friends with Kitty and Mike Wazowski. And because there's some similar traits that I think that, well, any of these little kids with curiosity will have with Boo. And I love the Pixar theory where people think that Boo is actually the older lady in Brave trying to find a way back to see Sully. Love that theory. And also I saw a recent theory where they thought Bing Bong was also from the Monstropolis as well, which is very interesting theory. I have to research more into that. But looking back, one of the things that I think that has dated this movie on rewatch is some of that animation. The animation for me seems not as vibrant as I remember, or as bright. And it doesn't really hurt the film's quality, and I still really love the film. But I think that's where my initial reaction of saying Monsters Inc. should have won. It's the clear winner. It's upper Pixar film. It's an upper Pixar film, and I still think it's upper Pixar, mind you. But there was some of the animation, even asking my wife, who is not really doesn't really care so much about critiquing film. She just wants to enjoy film. And that I love that about her. And I wish sometimes I could do that a little bit more. And so I admire that. But even she was like, you know what? I think that there was little spots here where it definitely didn't look as crisp as other sequences. So for somebody with just kind of an eye who's kind of noticing things here and there a lot more than maybe the average person, having an average normal person, just like a movie fan, catch that kind of stuff, thought that's very kind of maybe eye-opening a little bit, and maybe they got it right with Shrek. So it doesn't really hurt the film or my overall grade for Monsters Inc. And Monsters Inc. is still a fantastic film. I forgot to mention the score is probably one of my favorite Pixar scores as well. It makes this world feel so much more alive. Also, another thing I kind of didn't really like for whatever reason was Mr. Waternoose. I think that's where a lot of the animation was. I think his design's kind of weird. That the eye right between, he has like these two, like a bunch of small eyes around, and he has this one little eye. I always get like makes my eyes cross-eyed looking at him. So I think he has a very unique design that kind of is scary in a way, but his eyes just do it for me, and I just can't take it seriously. After watching it back, I just didn't quite realize that that's how his eyes looked, and it's kind of bugged me through it every time he was on screen. But Mr. Waternoose is played by James Coburn, which is a good voice. I think he was really good. I love what he was able to do with the character. And another one, Cecilia, played by Jennifer Tilly, which I totally forgot she was in here. I was like, oh, it's Tiffany from the Chucky franchise. Really cool to see her in here too. I think Pixar always does a great job with casting, and so every time they cast somebody who's maybe an oddball choice. It's like, oh yeah, it does work. It's awesome. Maybe they do know what they're doing over there at Pixar. But anyway, that's my quick takes on Monsters, Inc. I do end up giving this one maybe a higher rating. I don't want to spoil what I give Shrek, but I give this one a 3.5 out of 4 stars. It is one of my top 10 films of 2001. I do like this one quite a bit because it does pack that kind of emotional punch. I think it's really good storytelling as well. Yeah, so Monsters, Inc. actually wound up with 4 Oscar nominations, and actually with 1 win, surprisingly enough. It did win Best Original Song for If I Didn't Have You, which was sung by John Goodman and Billy Crystal, and was also nominated for Sound Editing, Original Score, and Animated Film. Things I really loved about that movie for sure were that. And the Oscars, the original score, that Sound Editing actually was up against Pearl Harbor. Only 2 movies nominated in that category that year, which is kind of interesting to see. Original Score, this one is a shocker. I love the score so much. The one category it did win was Original Song, and it beat out the song from Kate and Leopold, Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring, Pearl Harbor, and Vanilla Sky. And it did lose from some very iconic scores from 2001. It lost to the winner for original score that year was Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring, and it lost to all the other runners-up were AI, Beautiful Mind, and Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. I think they actually got that category predicted right. I probably would have gone Harry Potter and then Monsters, Inc., if I'm being honest, but Lord of the Rings would have been my winner for that as well. And animated, I still think that Shrek is the winner, but Monsters, Inc. is right there. I think there was just that big uproar of movement for Shrek being such kind of a groundbreaking time capsule movie that perfectly kind of is just 2001 all over it. But Monsters, Inc. Was a very solid movie. I love upper Pixar movie, but that's my thoughts and takes on it. This is a place for conversation, so I want you guys to jump in the conversation in that comment section. Let me know what you guys think of Monsters, Inc. Did you guys like it? Did you not like it as much as I did? Let me know down there. Make sure you guys scare that subscribe button by pushing it with your finger, your mouse, whatever the case may be, and join the conversation on Almost Sideways. We're just past 300 subscribers. We're going onward and upward to, let's say, 500 subscribers in a couple months. That'd be awesome. Anyway, guys, thank you so much. My name is Adam. We will see you next time.